So you've created a lovely model and you've set up some scenes that you like to show off the model, but quite frankly the default look doesn't really have the pizzazz you're looking for, or it doesn't show the design in detail, or the materials aren't quite right. So you want to show the model off a little bit differently. Now, to do this in Sketchup, I would recommend setting up your own styles. So, to set up your own styles, basically you want to make sure you go into the styles window. If it's not available over here, just go to the window and just make sure it has a little tick mark next to it. From there, you can see the styles that are already loaded in the model. Basically, I have just this default architectural design style from when I first started this model via that template. You can also find some other different kind of default styles, including things like sketchy edges, but I always like to suggest students to use these with a grain of salt, just because they don't always work for anything other than super rectilinear designs. So for example, like all of the furnishings here are really rough. So it's not always going to look exactly how you would expect. Go back to end model. And so I'm actually going to make a new style from this based off of this architectural design style. Now, when you're working with styles, if you have a lot of things going on, it can make your computer lag a little bit. So just keep that in mind as you make some adjustments. So what I'm going to do is actually duplicate my architectural design style. And I'm going to call it, say Audrey Noakes Better Materials Style, something along those lines, just so I can have a name to it. From there, I want to make some edits. So I'm going to go to the Edit tab here, and from here we can see all the different things we can edit. So you can edit the way edges and profiles appear. You can edit the way faces appear. You can edit the way the background appears, especially for exterior kind of visuals. And you can also add things to it. So watermarks could be things like branding or textured images that kind of overlay everything. And you can play around with the more diagrammatic things like section planes and section cuts and things like that as well. But for this purpose, I'm just going to set up a style that shows off my materials a little bit better, has a little bit of a nuance with the ambient occlusion, and doesn't necessarily have such heavy lines to it. So to do this, I'm going to go here, and I'm going to turn off profiles, and I'm actually going to keep edges on. Maybe we're going to make it a slightly, all the edges, let's just make them a little bit gray. Just to lighten it up a little. Alright, from there I'm going to go into the faces, and I'm actually happy with all of this because I do want to show off those textures, but I do want to turn on the ambient occlusion. Now this is where I always make some adjustments because I love this new feature, but I think the default adjustments are a little dramatic. So I would say that you can bump up the distance of the ambient occlusion, but maybe bump down the intensity. So it's just not quite as dramatic as those initial kind of settings would indicate. And once you've made those final adjustments, you just want to make sure you click on the little refresh button here or here, and that just updates the style to match the adjustments you've made here. Now, the last thing I want to do is I do think this use sun for shading is going to make this a lot brighter. So I've basically just kind of created a new version of this that's just going to show off the design a little bit better. So to apply this to a scene, I am just going to go to Scene and click Update. So now, if I go back to this scene, it's already updated with that new style as well as with those shading options. I can do the same thing over here. All I have to do is go to Select, apply my new style, use sun for shading, and update the scene. Now, maybe you're still not in love with the way this is looking. Maybe you want to show it more as a kind of series of line drawings. Perfect. Let's go back to creating a new style. So I'm going to create a copy of what we've just done. Click. And we're going to say this is just going to be white with black lines. From there, I just go to Edit, and here's where I'm going to make some more adjustments. So in this case, I'm going to choose this hidden line style, so I'm not going to show any textures. Alright, and I'm going to turn off the ambient occlusion because I don't love it, and I am going to turn back on profiles. but I'm going to turn them down to 1, where they're just a little bit thinner. And I think all of that's good, but now I'm going to go to the background and the sky. So I'm going to turn the sky off, and I'm going to make it where that background is all the way to white. So now we're in a truly black and white line drawing. And once we've created all of these adjustments in our style, we just want to refresh, add a new scene, and simply apply our new style.